Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America, featuring today's top directors sharing behind-the-scenes stories of their latest films and insights into the craft of directing. Please take a second to subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and check out the DGA website at dga.org to watch or listen to hours of content, such as past episodes of The Director's Cut, videos of the Guild's 75th anniversary celebration, and long-form interviews from our visual history program. You can access it all for free by going to the website and hovering over the Craft tab. This episode takes us behind the scenes of director Daniel Adams' new comedy, An LA Minute. In a satirical look at fame, the film tells the story of Ted Gold, a former Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist who gave up being a serious writer to cash in by penning trashy bestsellers. His world is shaken when he meets Velocity, a young, beautiful, and homeless performance artist whose passion and integrity inspires him to follow her example. In addition to An LA Minute, Mr. Adams' credits include the feature films The Lightkeepers, The Golden Boys, The Mouse, Primary Motive, and A Fool and His Money. Following a recent screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Mr. Adams spoke with director Bill Fishman about filming An LA Minute. During their discussion, Mr. Adams talks about the changes he made when the film's setting switched from New York to LA, the constraints and benefits of shooting on film with a low budget, and the inspiration behind opening the film with the song Wash Your Hands by Herschel Lamont.
Well, you mentioned that you had 15 days to shoot this, and that also when we were in the back talking that it's such an LA-centric film, yet you shot it in Savannah, Georgia for the most part. Mm-hmm. So I thought it might be interesting to talk about what it was like to shoot such a particularly LA film in a place like that, what the challenges were, how much crew you took down, and how they treated you.
The people there are great. We shot in Savannah, Georgia, because obviously Georgia's the place for film incentives, and unfortunately we don't have them for independent films here in California. But the incentive program they have here heavily favors the studios, not the indies. So we had to go there, and then of course we shot here to sell it as LA. We did a lot of exteriors here, but if I had to do it over again, it would be Savannah. There was sort of a dearth of crew. We had to import from LA and Atlanta. And all the keys were from L.A. And then there were some people. And what's interesting is, and I guess we'll talk about this in a little bit, but we were worried about getting a film loader because I shoot on 35, we figured we'd have to go to the retirement home in Woodland Hills to get a film loader. That's where they found me. So we, it turns out, The Walking Dead shoots on Super 16, and there were a ton of crew there that actually know how to shoot on film. So, and there's a great film lab there, Crawford Lab in Atlanta. We had to have a film runner run every 4 hours. Have a 4-hour drive every couple of days.
Scary.
we had good insurance, so. But yeah, so if I'd shoot in Savannah again if the film took place in Savannah or in Georgia, but I don't know. Taking place in LA, I think I'd probably pick another location next time.
You mentioned shooting on film. That's something that I actually haven't done in a while. So,
is there another way to shoot?
Well, it depends. I mean, I know that on the larger films, they're still able to shoot on film, but on shooting something like this, which is a smaller budgeted film, it must have been a bit of a challenge, I would expect, to have the same kind of workflow. And maybe, I know there's directors here. You may maybe talk about the workflow on a lower budget film with film instead of digital.
Well, first of all, because if you do a low budget film, you only have a certain amount of stock to work with, so you have to keep your ratio pretty low, and especially on this budget. On my other movies, because I've always shot on 35, my ratio was like 10-1 or 12-1, and I think I shot this 6-1. So it was that's pretty crazy. So we were running and gunning a lot, and as I said, I got half my shot list. It was a good day. But as far as the workflow, and it was, well, first of all, I'm much more comfortable shooting on film. So I just like, I was in this room and doing a Q&A. There's a Q&A with Steven Spielberg, and he said, shooting on film as opposed to video, it's the difference between painting with acrylic as opposed to oil, and there's a lot of truth to that. But I think what I love about it is you before you do a take, because you're limited in the amount of stock that you have. Right before you do a take, you need to make sure that you're really well rehearsed. Whereas on video, you shoot the rehearsals. I've seen where they move the camera and the camera's still running. You're moving it. So with film, you rehearse and rehearse and rehearse until you're ready to do a take, because the film stock is so precious, especially on a low budget. So as a result, everybody appreciates it. The actors appreciate it. The crew appreciates it, because they know that their best work is going to be shot, and the rehearsals won't be. So, for example, a dolly grip or a camera operator, if they if they want to get that camera move down perfectly before we do a take, because otherwise, if they make a mistake, that could end up in the film, because we're shooting rehearsals, we're doing everything. So there's an appreciation, I think, from both the crew and the cast to shoot on film. And it's just, I suppose the argument is, yeah, you could do the same thing, just not do a take. but the great thing is that because you're shooting on film, you have that excuse to everyone to say, this is how it has to be done. No exceptions. We're going to get this right before we actually do a take. Yeah.
So in working with the actors, I thought there was really great casting in this. I thought the actors were really terrific. How did you go about casting this film? Did you go through auditions or work with the casting director where you cast Gabriel and Kirsten?
Yeah, well, Gabriel and Kiersey were both sort of. I was working originally with a casting director that I work with all the time, Sheila Jaffe, and then we used someone locally when we went to Savannah. But as it turns out, Gabriel, I had known him from years ago, and Ratso, my co-writer, we had shared an office years ago with production office with. George Barkin and Ellen Barkin, and Ellen was married to Gabriel at the time, so we got to know him back then. Ratso more than me, so it was sort of going back to an old friend kind of thing. As far as Kiersey was concerned, it was a very tough role to cast, and it was weird. My son, who's a stand-up comedian, and in fact he's at He's at the Hollywood Improv tonight, probably telling a joke while we're here. But he, I asked him, because he's sort of, as a 20-something, he knows that who's hot and who's not, sort of thing. And I said, well, so who would be right for this role that you know of that you think is really hot right now? And he didn't even flinch. He said, Kiersey Clemons. And I was like, who's that? And he said, well, go see Dope. And she was the female lead in Dope. And I said, well, I did see Dope. In fact, I saw it here. And she, and I said, I didn't think of her because it was such a different character than what Velocity is. And so I said, I'd have to see other stuff. Can she? And he was like, Dad, she's an actress. She can do whatever, And he had to school me a little bit, So yeah, I saw her in other stuff, and she just blew me away. And she's one of the hottest actresses right now, and she's coming out in The Flash and the Zorro movie, and she's got the Jason Blum movie coming out where she's the lead, and she's on fire right now, and rightly so. When we were shooting this, she was 22 years old, and she was just as professional as any 40-year veteran that I've ever worked with. In fact, one of them's out there, Sally. Sally Kirkland's there, so I worked with 20 years ago. Sally, Kiersey is rivaling your ability.
That's a good point. So was anything from this script based in real events that you kind of used?
Well, you all know what a MacGuffin is. The obviously we're a room full of filmmakers. We were Ratso and I were just had dinner with a mutual friend of ours. He's more Ratso's friend than mine. Kinky Friedman. I don't know if you remember Kinky Friedman and the Texas Jew Boys. He's a country and western singer. But Kinky we had dinner, and Kinky was had a little bit too much to drink, and we were walking down Central Park South, and a guy he kept getting accosted by homeless people. Urban outdoorsmen. But anyways, so he kept getting accosted, and he kept giving out money to people, and then the last guy he gave all his change to, and he said something sarcastic, and being sort of drunk, he started yelling at the guy, and then we walked on, and then he was like, I feel badly. I shouldn't have, So he wanted to go back and find. For about 10 minutes, we tried to find the homeless guy, and we couldn't find him to apologize. But so we thought, well, that's a MacGuffin for a great, for something. And then so Ratso and I sat down. We did an outline, and then after that, we started writing it. So
how do you? I suppose it's different with different writers, but in this process, what was your writing process like? Did you sit down and type out the scenes together? Did you, hand off stuff? How did you work?
Well, it was great with he's a pretty prolific writer, and he doesn't do as many screenplays. He writes books and stuff like that. So I was sort of the screenplay person, and so I would write a scene or write a couple of scenes, and then send it to him, and he would polish, and then he would write a few scenes, tag a few scenes onto that, and then I'd send it back to me, and I'd polish them, and then I'd add a couple of scenes, so on and so forth. So it's interesting. Some scenes were definitely Ratso, and some were definitely me. But they, in the final analysis, they became both of ours. So, but we sort of played off each other, which was great. I mean, and at the time he was editor of National Lampoon, so he was in that mode, doing this thing. So it was great. So.
And then, so that most of your cast then had to come, I assume, from Los Angeles as well. Is that the case? Because I know that if you're shooting in the South, there's Southern accents and things such as that. Or
yeah, well, there's a huge number of actors out of Atlanta, because I mean, I don't, Marvel owns Atlanta right now. They do all their films there, and so they keep actors and crew constantly employed. So there's a lot of the supporting roles we got locally, and then the others mostly from LA. A lot of friends. I mean, is Ash here? He's there he's way back there. Yeah, he's a member from LA. Ash Adams, no relation, thank God. I mean, we a lot of the supporting leads and supporting roles were from LA, but then there were quite a few really good actors, like a guy named Mark McCullough, who played he played the guy who comes in, with the all the sexual paraphernalia.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He, I apologize for that scene. I apologize for a lot of stuff. But in any case, so he's great. He's a local actor, and he usually plays, but he gets big roles in big films because the ones that are shot, like he's in he's in a Tom Cruise movie, he's in some of the Marvel films, and he's really good. And he usually plays tough guys, so it was quite he did a great job. So. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of local talent there.
So how long did you have to prep the movie down there to cast and run with it, while you were setting it up?
We had about 5 weeks of prep, but we only had 15 days of shooting. We originally scheduled for 20, but like any other, we had some financial issues. We had to cut the budget halfway through. We take a hiatus, come back. It was pretty crazy, but and you'd think for like just a walk and talk it'd be so much easier than doing an action film or something like that. But I remember the last day of shooting, it was 2:00 in the morning, and when I finally, when we were on the we had the martini in the can. Gabriel just came up to me and hugged me and said, "That was the hardest film I've ever worked on." I said, "I know, me too."
It worked for the character, I think.
Well, he just did a great job. No, I think it was a grueling shoot, and I have to credit Gabriel. It was amazing. The last few days, he had a horrible flu. And he'd be on the set, and we'd be ready to do a take, and he'd be just exhausted. He'd be like, and just feeling miserable. And I'd say action, and he'd be right in character, perfect too. And I'd say cut, and he'd go, oh. And back to it was incredible. I mean, he's a brilliant actor, but I mean, just he's incredible professional. It was. But I had it, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why it was so grueling for him, is because he was sick the last few days of the shoot. So
that's too bad. One of the other aspects I really enjoyed was the music. I thought you had a couple of really nice cues in there that really, talked. It seemed like it was real appropriate for the scene. So I don't know if you had those written or how
some of them, like the song for the opening credits, "Wash Your Hands," was a song that the music people had already, and they gave it to me to listen to, and I thought it was perfect for what I don't know if you saw even my last couple of films. They were nice, romantic, family-oriented romantic comedies, and they were, Richard Dreyfuss and Blythe Danner, and it was the last one, and I wanted a song in there so that at the beginning, so that like anyone who liked my last couple of movies would walk out in the first 2 minutes. So. Because they were just it was just usually films are, and this gets back to the first question, just as what you do as being a filmmaker. But the times right now are so harsh that I wanted to make a harsh film. I couldn't. When you witness what's going on around you in the world right now, you can't make a film that is a nice, romantic comedy. You just can't right now. I mean, it's just because halfway through you're going, why am I doing this? I'm not saying anything that's pertinent to what's going on in the world right now, and that's what a filmmaker's supposed to do. And whether you love this film or you hate it, and it doesn't matter. You've got to take risks, and so that, so to get back to the song, I mean, I wanted something that was just in your face, F you, because those are the times we're living in right now, and as a filmmaker, you have to comment on it. You can't just sit back and not be motivated to do something outrageous. So the hip hop and rap stuff is incredibly appropriate for what I was trying to do with the film. So.
And when you originally wrote the screenplay, what did you need to change to bring it up to?
Well, pretty much New York was a character in the first, when we first wrote it, and we wanted LA to be a character. But New Yorkers obviously behave a lot differently than in fact, they're quite the antithesis. So we had to bring in that sort of that LA attitude and LA vibe with everyone and all the characters. So it was quite and we referenced a lot of places in LA that and then of course 20 years ago we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have all the modern technology, so that had to be brought into the script and so forth to make it. But yeah, so it took it went through quite a few rewrites before we actually got it to where you could say these are LA characters in LA, and and Kiersey, I think she's such a dynamite actress, that she sold it. You could tell she was who the character that she was, from a rich kid from Brentwood.
So will you be using film, in the future? Is that are you sticking with it as a medium?
Yeah, well, I don't. I mean, it's funny. Not this film. Two movies ago, my DP and AD tried to talk me into shooting digitally, and they said you wouldn't believe it now. They've got you can use film lenses, and you can on these cameras, and you can do all these things, and it looks just like film. We wouldn't even know the difference. And I said, so wait a minute. So you're saying we rent a camera package from Panavision for $20,000 a week? I mean, $20,000 a week to make it look like you shot on a $5,000 a week camera. And they're like, oh yeah. So we, it never made sense to me to shoot, I just, it's funny. I was here a couple of years ago. Chris Nolan did a sort of a talk about shooting on film, and here, I think it was in the other theater, and he was talking about how the technology just isn't there shooting digitally yet, where you have. If you're shooting on film and you're talking in terms of resolution, film is like 12K. It's not, and you can shoot on, you have 4K cameras, but you don't. You're missing information Whereas when you're shooting on film, you're getting all that information, recorded so that you have more information to work with in post. So even though ultimately it's being projected digitally, with a DCP and everything, you have more to work with. And so until the technology catches up to film, I'm still gonna shoot on film.
Okay, well, I hope Kodak still makes film.
Well, I hope so. Yeah.
What is what's the release schedule on this film?
Well, it's been out in theaters, and now I think the VOD is coming out in January, and then on all the other ancillary rights after that. I don't know what the windows are and all the contractual things are, but I believe the VOD is scheduled for January. So in case you want to torture yourself a second time.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. If you'd like to hear more, you can find past episodes of The Director's Cut wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll have a lot more for you in the coming months as awards season approaches, so stay tuned. If you're enjoying the podcast, please like, share, and leave us a review. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.